my elder brother. Yeah, so your guess was right. All right, so we've spent a little bit of time getting to know ourselves. I believe we have a community where we get to know ourselves and to work together as one family. So permit me to welcome everybody to this Design Digests session by Pexel. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope this session is going to be an interactive one, and we're going to learn a lot. Basically, I'll be focusing on the basics when we get to the practical session so that everybody in the class can be carried along and it doesn't look as if we are doing rocket science, right? So I'll go ahead to share my screen so you would see my slides as I walk you through what I've prepared for this session. So kindly let me know if you can see my screen, and kindly let me know if you can see my screen, please, through the comment session. Can you see my screen? All right, okay, I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so welcome to the session once again. We'll be looking at micro interaction design and also animation, and it's also going to be a practical class. So let's get started.
Please, I can't see your screen. No.
You can't see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Let me stop sharing here, and I'll share again.
Okay.
Yes. So can you see my screen now? Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
All right, okay. So welcome everyone. In this session, we're going to learn about micro interaction design and a little bit of animation using keyframes. So at the end of these theoretical aspects, we're going to do a little bit of practicals, right? So let's get started. Of course, I want to believe that all of us here are excited, and in this presentation, we will explore the world of micro interactions, and we should know that these small animations can significantly enhance user experience by adding delight and feedback to interactions. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive into the threads of effective micro interactions and keyframes for effective animations. So in this session, we're going to be looking at the role of animation in micro interaction. Under that, we're going to look at the introduction to micro interaction and animation. After that, we're going to look at the principles of effective animation in micro interaction design. So we're going to look at timing, easing, and consistency using the Keyline framework. And lastly, which is the most exciting part that I can't wait to get on, is the hands-on exercise, which we're going to create simple animations for micro interactions using design tools. So at the last part of the session, which will be the hands-on exercise, we're going to not just do a little bit of animation, we're also going to do or create rather interactive components, right, for your design system. So both of them works hand in hand, right? So let's get real started. So first thing first, what are micro interactions, right? So micro interactions are basically components for modern day design as they engage, inform, and boost user experience, right? So in the current day applications that we have, products that we have out there, almost all of them has one or two micro interaction, which passes a kind of emotion, a kind of message, a kind of feeling, a kind of user guide to users that gets to use that particular product, right? So micro interactions are really, really important when you want to design a product. However, not every product needs micro interactions to be part of it when creating that product or coming up with your design system. All right. So I usually used to say micro interactions are small gestures, but they create big impacts. So after that, let's have a brief introduction to micro interaction. Micro interaction creates user engagement. It improves your design to be interactive and also communicate with your users. So it tends to ease that communication gap between you as the designer who has designed that product and the end user, because you won't be there to explain some of the processes to your users. So that is where micro interaction comes into play, and it comes in really, really handy, right? So furthermore, it also comprehends the strategic function that can greatly enhance the overall user experience and usability of the interface. Along the line, just to take us out a little bit, along the line, wherever you don't really get to understand, you could write your questions down, and you can as well drop it in the comment section, and there'll be time for question and answers, so that we don't get the class too rowdy, right? So let's get back again. So we are going to look at the types of micro interaction. There are basically 4 types of micro interaction, and we have the 4 of them is trigger, rules, feedback, and loops, right? As you can see on the screen here. So trigger, what is trigger? Trigger basically creates the action that you have instructed, or the sequence of interaction that you have actually created for that micro interaction to be able to be interactive to your users. So trigger, we basically have 2 types of trigger. We have user-initiated triggers, and we have system-initiated triggers, right? So user-initiated triggers occur when a user takes an action, like tapping the like button. I believe most of us here have one social media account, for example, like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and 1,000 of them, right? So, and we can as well relate to that when you want to like a post and you just click on it, click on the like icon, we tend to see a variation of emojis that talks more about how we feel about that particular post. So that is user-initiated trigger, because you are in control of that particular action you want to engage in. Then the next about trigger is system-initiated triggers, right? So system-initiated triggers, this is a micro interaction that you don't really have 100% control over, because it is already in the system that just beeps to give a user that notification that something has happened around your product, something has happened where you are, right? So this is basically what the system directs you or informs you about certain conditions that you might want, that you have faced in the space of you using that particular product. So I'll be using product a whole lot, because I want to believe almost all of us here are designers. So when I talk about products, I basically am talking about mobile applications, web applications, and softwares, as the case may be, right? So the next is rules. So there are no written rules anywhere written in stone that you must follow certain pattern for you to achieve micro interaction. It's not written anywhere. However, you have to be flexible and have to keep it natural, right? So for example, we all know a toggle switch which moves from the left to the right, that signifies a turn on or a turn off, right? So this rule is something that we all know, right? So you can't do certain things out of the normal, right? We all know it is either on or it is either off. So it can't be in between, right? So if it's in between, you have to create another interaction for that has to create a pause, right? Just like how we have the play and the pause button. But in this particular situation, that is not applicable to to micro interaction. So don't get it mixed up, right? We have static functions and we have interactive functions as well in micro interaction, right? So that is about rules in micro interaction. Then the next one we have feedback. Feedback basically communicates the micro interaction to the user, right? It can be visual, it can be auditory, it can be haptic, right? So just basically to let the user know that their action has been recognized by your product. For example, I would use the social media platforms because we all definitely have that feel and we can relate to social media. For example, when you click on, you want to like a particular post you've seen on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you have that variation of emojis that pops up, right? So for example, let's say you click the heart icon, right? So tapping on the heart icon, naturally you want to see that after tapping the heart icon, it is displayed on your screen that yes, you have just liked that particular post using a different emoji, right? And at the same time, it's going to pass a message to the owner of that post that someone has liked your comment with this emoji. So this is the emotion that you've been able to pass through to the next person without talking to the next person. So micro interaction helps to build that communication without you even saying a word, right? So creating micro interaction, you have to look into it if this micro interaction give the necessary feedback that is required for that particular action. It is very, very, very important. So the last but not the least, loops. So loops basically just governs how the micro interaction behaves. So this is how it appears, how it comes up. Does it just come up automatically, right? Creating your micro interaction. Do you make it fluid? Do you make it rigid? Do you make it not so rigid, not so fluid? So this is what loops is all about, right? So how it affects your user emotion, how it creates that that atmosphere for users to really enjoy the micro interaction, right? So basically, these are the types of micro interactions that we have. Although you can have access to 1,001 types of micro interaction, but these four are basically what is really, 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 really basic when creating micro interactions. So the next is animation. Let's not forget, we're also looking at animation from another point of view. And also we need to understand animation and also understand micro interaction, differentiating both of them, and also explaining where both of them meet, right? So let's have a brief understanding about the power of animation, right? So as you can rightly see here, animation gives micro interactions a captivating touch by directing user attention and offering visual feedback. When applied correctly, it can boost understanding, facilitate navigation, and improve the user experience on interfaces, right? So don't get it wrong. Animation and micro interactions, just look at them as brother and sister, right? So for me, basically, this is my personal opinion, and this is how I see animation and micro interaction. Yes, we have micro interaction and we have animation. I just feel that animation is a beautified name of looking at micro interaction. Why? Animation, I call animation macro interaction, while we have micro interaction. So macro interaction, which is animation, encompasses everything about user navigation, improving user experience, and also it gives a better understanding about certain features, right? So that is animation. But micro interaction, as the name implies, micro, just something little, just to make it a little bit interesting, not so rigid, but should look, I like to give that tech feeling, right? So that's what micro interaction does. But animation is a whole lot, right? And not every product has animation, right? But the use of micro interaction is common, right? It's common. You can easily get micro interaction anywhere and everywhere, right? But animation in product, you could barely see animation in the products that we use from day to day. So for example, where you can see animation is the use of VR and that's virtual reality and augmented reality. So that aspect of design, that is where you'd have to use animation more than micro interaction, right? So after that, this is just a simple flow chart that I came up with for us to have an understanding of micro interaction and macro interaction, which is also animation. So we have user and system, right? So the system actually stands for any device you're using, maybe your mobile phone or your system or your iPad or any gadget you have just to access any product, right? So it just quickly explains what we just did from the beginning of this from the beginning of this part of the session. So we need to get trigger in between. Trigger is where we have the triggers, we have the loops, we have the rules, we have the feedback, right? So that is where everything sits in, and in between the trigger and the micro interaction itself, that is what you've been able to create. That is where you build your communication, right? Your communication. What are you trying to pass with that micro interaction you have been able to design, right? You don't just create micro interaction anywhere and anyhow because you just like how things move, right? That's not how it works, right? So when you get to the trigger, you need to be sure how many yeses and how many no's, right? So the start, you need to determine the duration. How many seconds, how many milliseconds is it going to take for this thing to pop? How many seconds is it going to take for this thing to go off the user, to go off the face of the user, right? So after that, you have the end of the trigger, and definitely it should be an impactful end. So when we come down here to the micro interaction itself, you need to also understand that the whole process that you've been able to put into that particular micro interaction, the whole emotion, because that is one of the key things that micro interaction or animation is all about. You have to create a feeling, you have to create an emotion. Your user needs to understand that you're communicating something that they can feel, something that they can understand, because this is not rocket science. This is something that you want it to be interesting, you want it to be captivating, and at the same time, you want to communicate to anybody, anywhere in the world, right? So then you have your feedback, and the same process goes on and on and on and on, right? So this takes us to the end of the session of what micro interactions and animation is all about. So if you have your questions, you can as well drop your questions at the end of the session. I'm going to answer every question as you've given. So let's go to the next session. I'm sorry, to the next topic rather. We have the role of animation in micro interaction, right? So the role of animation basically creates an important, it creates an important feeling, an important imagination in the minds of the users, right? So that ease, that timing, right, deals more with the animation part of it. So that is why I said animation and micro interaction. However, you can't really differentiate both of them, but however, they have a little bit of differences, and we're going to look at it as we progress in this class. We're going to look at it practically, and we're also going to look at it as we go on theoretically. So this is what we have to keep in mind. We have to keep in mind that to maximize the impact of animation, use it sparingly and purposefully. Ensure that animations are smooth, fast, and enhance the overall experience without causing distractions or delays in user interactions. I think this is self-explanatory. You don't need to make your animations look out of this world. As meanwhile, you're just passing a little bit of information here and there. So you don't use your animations to bore your users and make your users lose interest in your product. So you need to understand where to use animation, when to use animation, how to use animation, as the case may be. If you're not building or if you're not designing a virtual reality product, an augmented reality product, then most times you don't necessarily need animation. You just need micro interaction, right? And that will just help to communicate better, faster, and it will be seamless, right? So let's look at the roles of animation, right, in micro interaction. So basically, we're going to look at 6 roles. We're going to take it step by step. We're going to look at 6 roles, how micro interaction plays a pivotal role to micro interaction. So first we have here is emotional engagement. We have guiding user attention, and we have visual feedback. Please, before we continue, I just want to know if anyone and everyone can hear me, please. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, okay, all right. Okay, so let's continue, right? So the first thing we have is emotional engagement, right? So this is very, very important because your users need to understand. You have to communicate to them emotionally, psychologically, sometimes subconsciously, right? Because some of the engagements we have now on the social media space, some of them are being done out of our subconscious effort, right? Because we just have it there somewhere written in our minds that when I touch this, I should be expecting to see this, right? So that emotion, that connection that you have, because of the emotional engagement in some of these social media platforms that we have, some users tend to use Snapchat more than Instagram. Why? You wouldn't blame them, because they have that emotional engagement with Snapchat more than in Instagram, right? So it differs, right? Some users prefer to use TikTok than Snapchat or Instagram. So it differs, right? So you have to be able to create these emotions through ensuring that how you want to use your the power of animation in creating this emotion. It has to be something that is captivating and comes out more in its natural form, right? So that's about emotional engagement. So let's look at guiding user attention. So animation can direct the user's attention to critical points in the interface, such as drawing attention to a notification, new message, or call to action. I want to believe that some of us here, if not all of us, have signed into some new products that we've not seen before, just for the first time. And when you get onboarded, you tend to see some little bit of information that just pops up at one side of the screen, and you just read a little bit of it. And inside that pop-up, you get to see something like next 1/4 or 1/2. And when you click on next, it takes you to another section still on that particular interface, right? And you get to have a little bit of information about that particular what that icon does, right? I want to believe some of us have experienced that in 1 or 2 products, right? So now that process, right, of explaining, of guiding users, right? Because from somewhere here, let's say from somewhere here, you click on next, it takes you to somewhere here, you click on next, it takes you down here. That movement from one point to another, that is an animated process, right? Yes, you can achieve that with micro interaction, but it won't be as engaging, as more natural with it won't be more natural when you use micro interaction. However, when you use the power of animation, it's going to make it seamless, understanding, and it's going to be fluid. All right. So we just need to understand that. Yeah. So that is one of the ways we can use animation in micro interaction. The next is visual feedback. So 1 minute, please. Okay. So the next is visual feedback. So animation provides instant feedback, confirming that an interaction has been recognized by the system. You can hear that interaction, right? So just add micro to it and you would understand that animation and micro interaction actually works hand in hand. So that's visual representation and flow of your animation should be explicit, right? It shouldn't just be up and everywhere on your product, and just because you enjoy animation, then you just feel you can use it on anything and everywhere, right? So you need to have a visual feedback, and it has to be swift. It has to be timely as well. So the next set of roles we're going to look at is contextual continuity. We're going to look at affordance and predictability, and we're going to look at communication, right? So contextual continuity basically creates this sense of seamless interactions, and also visually connects different interface. Right. So now what this basically means is the process of engagement in your animation. Right. Now this has to deal this part of it has to do with gamified products, right? If you're a game designer, you would understand what contextual continuity basically means much more better. Right. But if you're not a game designer, I'll just break it down to something we all should be able to understand. Right. So let me just use a basic explanation to for us to understand. Right. So I'm going to use social media again because all of us we're on social media. I'm assuming, permit me. So when you get on Facebook, right? When you get to Facebook, we have some kind of games that are now embedded in Facebook, right? And now, if you look at those games, the context, right, are the same, right? What I mean context is like, how old are you going to look like in the next 10 years? Now, that is a user flow. Now, we are looking at animation in it right now. So when you opt in to play one of those games, now, there are little bit of animation that happens before you get your result, right? And if you look at it in almost all the games that you play there, the process of you getting your answers are the same, right? So that context, there's a continuity in that context, right? So you have to be conscious about that. So that is contextual continuity in products like that. But it explains much more better than what I just did now for game designers. Right. So the next is affordance and predictability. So animation can direct the user's attention to critical points in the interface, such as drawing attention to notifications. So what this basically means is your animation you should be able to create animations that are predictable, right? Because it makes the user wants to engage more. But when you create animations that makes the user begins to think, okay, what next should I be expecting? Should I be expecting something wild? Should I be expecting something out of this world? At that point in time, you haven't been able to pass this particular rule, right? So, and you tend to chase users away. So using animation, yeah, you have to be sure that users are able to like, okay, so if I click next, it's taking me here, right? Okay, so okay, I should be expecting that, okay, at the end of this, I should have this, right? So it has to be, you have to create that a little bit of predictability, because when users are able to predict to a reasonable extent, they want to know more. It makes them want to engage on your product, right? Because you're not creating a movie, you're creating a product for people to use, but you're just using a little bit of animation for them to understand it much more better, right? So the last but not the least is communication. This is very, very important, right? So your loaders, your saving process, syncing data, and that process and all those processes involved to achieve the result, it has to be something that communicates much more better to your users, right? You can't have a process that requires a loading effect and the screen just goes blank and you expect the user to understand that it is loading. I mean, nobody's going to understand what is happening. The next thing is then I just want to look for a way to get out of that product, right? But when we have that loader feeling, then you tend to make the user understand, okay, something is happening, so just give me some time, right? And then that is where UX writing also comes into place. You have to put in a little bit of write-up, wait in 10 seconds, it's going to load and all that, yeah. So communication is very important while you're using animation to create and enhance your product. So after that, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the end of this session, this theoretical part, because personally, I don't like talking plenty and all that, but come on, I love to do this. All right, so understanding keyframes, right, in animation. So keyframes are the building blocks of animation, right? They basically define the starts and endpoints of any transition. So when using keyframe, you just have to understand, okay, this is the starting point. So when a user clicks on this button, how many seconds is it going to take for that action to manifest, like to come into fruition, right? So that is what keyframes helps you to do. It helps you to give that seamless transition. So mastering keyframes, it's very important. You just need to understand your timing, the ease, the flow, the duration, and all those things. So when designing animations, these are the things you need to consider. Why? Because a well-timed animation can evoke emotion and improve user satisfaction, making them feel more connected to the interface. So this is what keyframes helps you to do. Before we get closer and more closer to the end of this session, I just want to inform everyone, if you are on your system, you can quickly go on to Figma if you're using Figma for your designs, because personally I use Figma for my designs. And when we get to the practical session, which we are almost there, I'll be using Figma to design and create micro interaction and also do a little bit of animation using keyframes, so that we just have basic understanding about how to use keyframes and also how to create micro interactions, which I want to believe that most of us, if not all, understands how to design micro interaction, right? So you can quickly do that. Go to Figma, install a plugin called FigMotion, F-I-G, then Motion, right? You can install that as a plugin on your Figma, so that before we get to that, before we get to the practical session, you're already set to follow the process. All right, so I think this should be the last topic, if I'm not mistaken, the principles of effective animation in micro interaction design. So let's quickly look at the principles. So there are numerous principles that build the process of animation while creating micro interaction for your users. It is worthy to note that the basic principles are pivotal to in expanding your understanding as you progress as a creative. right? So what this means is basically we have 1,001 principles for effective animation and design. And I think I rightly mentioned that in this session, we're going to look at the basics, right? So there are basic things you just need to understand before you progress, right? So because if you don't get the basics right, a whole lot of things might just go wrong in the long process, and you might not really find it interesting anymore. So let's critically look at 4 basic principles, which I love because they really helped me, and also most designers that are my friends. These are also the basic principles that we all know and we've been using as well. So I just thought that I should share this so that we can learn and use this as a guide. But meanwhile, you can go and expand your knowledge on the principles of effective animation and design. So we're going to look at 4: timely, responsive, and concise. We're going to look at natural and fluid. We're going to look at consistency. We're going to look at seamless and smooth transitions, right? So first thing first, your animation needs to be timely, right? You need to make it work in real time. You need to make it look effective, right? You need to maintain proper timing. It mustn't be too fast. It mustn't be too slow. So these are the things you need to look into, right? So animation lasts between, like, one process shouldn't take more than 200 to 500 milliseconds, or at most 800 milliseconds, right? So these are not compulsory timing you must use, right? But this is just the range you can start to work with, right? You can start working with between 200 and 500 or 600 milliseconds, just for you to understand, okay, how these things work, right? But you can exceed 500 milliseconds, you can do 1,000 milliseconds, depending on whatever feeling you want to create for your users. So it is not compulsory for you to use this time range. I just brought up this so we can have a range to work with, right? So just for clarity purposes. So the next is natural and fluid, right? So you need to understand that creating animations, it has to be natural, it has to be something that is relatable, right? Your users need to be engaged in the whole process, right? You have to be consistent in your movements, right? So what this means is, when you have your first movement creating animation and you're using a spiral kind of movement, you need to maintain that spiral movement, right? Not where you're having spiral movement here, you're having skewed movements here, you're having another kind of, so all these movements in one animation makes it boring. So you need to keep it the same. Move from one to another, and it's still the same movement, it's still the same flow. So it makes the user to believe that they are in one space, they are in the same product, right? But when you tend to use like 20 types of movement in one product, it just makes the whole thing boring and looks like a jamboree. So which is not really, really good for you and your product. So the next we're going to look at is consistency. So like I just earlier mentioned in number 2, natural and fluid has to be consistent. So you need to maintain consistency, right? You need to keep your navigation transitions, your hover state. You need to ensure uniformity to prevent confusion, right? Very, 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 very important. You need to ensure uniformity, right? It's key. So we're going to learn all these practically in the next few minutes. So you need to follow established patterns. Now, established patterns are patterns you can also create for yourself for that particular product. You need to be creative when you're coming up with animations or micro interaction. Like I earlier said, animation is just a beautified name for macro interaction. Personally, I call it macro interaction, right? That is what I call it, but that is when I want to do design, right? And I want to do animation, I just call it macro interaction because I have micro somewhere else. So I love giving it a brother. Okay, so the next is seamless and smooth transitions. So creating this animation, creating this micro interaction, it has to be seamless. You need to make it look fluid. It just have to look simple, natural, like nothing out of the box, nothing too serious, nothing too unnatural, right? So it has to be seamless. You need to ensure that the most important thing is using creating animations or creating micro interaction is you are able to communicate to your users. Basically, that's just what it is. So if it's not seamless, if you don't have smooth transitions, then you're having a little bit of issues with your animation. So very, 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 very important. That is one of the, that is if we want to dive out a little bit, that's why if the world of robotics keeps on evolving, so that robots tend to have this natural movements like humans. So break it down to your products that you design from day to day. So if you're adding that feature, if you're adding the feature of animation or micro interaction, you need to make it fluid and not make it look robotic or rigid. Right? It has to have these sweet transitions, these smooth transitions. So basically, these are the principles that you just need to have at the back of your mind. It needs to be timely, responsive, and concise. It has to be natural. You need to keep that consistency, and also it has to be seamless, and you need to have smooth transitions. So that is the end of the theoretical aspects for this session. And here we have the practical session, hands-on exercise. So I don't know, before we get into the hands-on exercise, I would like to take few questions before we get into the hands-on exercise, so that your questions can be clarified. And when we start doing something, you would also be carried along. So please, you can drop your questions on the chat box, or you can as well use the mic. Please, 5 minutes will be okay for that on our wrap sheet. Yes, any question? Let me look at the chat box if there's any. Okay, no question yet. Please, I'm waiting for questions. Okay, I want to believe that everybody here understood, because there are no questions coming from anyone. Okay, I believe we can't wait to get started practically. 4 minutes, please. Okay, so I'll take that as we all understand. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that interaction there. All right, so let's get started. Sorry. Okay, someone was asking a question. Okay, go ahead. Vincent, you can ask. Yeah.
Okay, hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so basically it's about the plugins here. I think I find it difficult to install the the big motion you just talked about. So I'll be trying to see how I can install that before you commence. So is there a link, or can you like give me a direction on how to go about it?
Okay. All right. Are you on Figma right now?
Yeah, currently I am, yeah.
Okay. All right. So are you having the same interface as mine?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when you look at this panel down here, right, where my mouse is moving around, you'd see at the second to last icon you see actions, right? So click on actions. When you click on actions, you have this pop-up here. Then you would see plugin and widgets. So click on plugin and widgets.
Okay, done that.
Yeah, so yeah, when you click on plugin, then type Figmotion.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you type in Figmotion, you would see it. It will come up. Have you seen it?
They're still loading.
Okay. For mine is still loading. So as well. So it's for some system, it's going to open an external browser out of Figma, right? You're going to have the same thing as you can see on my screen for some system, right? While for some system you might not have this particular function, right? So, however, it's still the same thing. Yeah.
I've seen it here. So I'll just run.
Okay.
Click on run.
Yeah, run. Yes, click on run.
Okay. That's all.
Yeah. That's all. That's all.
Okay, I've done that. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. So I want to believe you've gotten it, and every other person. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Just give me a minute. Let me drink water because my throat is dry. 1 minute. I'm dehydrated. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the time. Thank you, Lawal Esther. I see you. Thank you. Okay, so this is the plugin for those that are just joining in. So Figmotion is the name of the plugin. Yeah. So for this first thing first, let's start with micro interaction, right? Before we jump into macro interaction, like I call it. It's that's how I call it, to please, for clarity purposes, so that you don't say I gave it a name, animation. Please, that's what I love to call it, macro interaction. But let's start with micro interaction, right? So what we're going to be designing is called a landing page, not necessarily a landing page, a hero section, just a small hero section, right? Just something small, just the basic of just the basic. So this is I just selected a frame. I want to believe you all know how to select a frame, but okay, let me walk us through that process. So you have an empty canvas, and you come down here where you have this this panel here. You would see this where my mouse is currently situated, and you see frame will be popped. Frame, that's notification will be up there, and you just click on frame. When you click on frame, you're expected to see by your right hand side a list of screen dimensions. You have phone, tablet, and what have you. So click on desktop, and I'll be selecting desktop frame, which has a dimension of 1440 by 1024. So that's what I'll be selecting for this. So once you just click on that, automatically you have a frame that just pops out. So permit me, for the purpose of this class, I'm going to skip a whole lot of design principles, design step. What I mean by that is applying grid, column grid, row grid, and the likes, because we just want to look at how to create micro interaction and create components for that. So we're going to do something right now. Let's just get started. So I'll select my text still down here where we have this icon here. And sorry, this panel here. So I'll select text and I'll come here and I will type in, let me zoom in a bit so that for those using mobile, they can see. So let's say, let me come up with with a hero text. Let's say learn with Pexels. Yeah. Learn with Pexels to become a techie. Yeah, to become a techie. All right, so this is our hero text, and the font size is 18. We can increase that to, let's do 48. Right, let's do 48. Okay, our text alignment is justified to be center. Let's make it left aligned. So now we have this. Let's learn with Pexels to become a techie. Right now, let's say you want to come up with the hero section for Pexels, right? And Pexel wants to communicate to the millions of users, millions of prospective students or persons who want to become a techie, right? But they have a focus, right? Let's say instead of we having learn with Pexels to become a techie, and we have learn with Pexels to become a product designer, learn with Pexels to become a software developer, learn with Pexels to become a data analyst. That is a whole lot. And we can't be typing all those things everywhere, right? So that's not a good flow. That's not the good flow if you ask me. But how can we do that? Now, where we have techie, right? Where we have techie here, we can make we can create a kind of micro interaction that the words tend to change, and we give it a particular time frame, right? And learn with Pexels to become a just remain static. And then where we have techie, still that same place, we're going to have product designer. We're going to have still in that place, we're still going to have software developer. Still there, we're going to have data analyst. So you see, with micro interaction, we'll be able to reduce the number of text, reduce that that's plenty engagement, and make it more interesting, more engaging. And you tend to keep your users engaged, and they might just like what they see and sign up with Pexels, right? So that is what we want to create right now. So how do we do that? Basically, you understand what I'm trying to say as we progress. Right, so we have this now, learn with Pexels to become a techie, and let's make this extra bold. Let's make this extra bold, and let me just do a little bit of letter spacing to -1 px. Yeah, okay. So let's keep it at this, and then what we need to do is now at this point, what we do is I'm going to take out techie. I'm going to copy only techie, right? And I'll press Ctrl X to cut it, right? To take it out of this text box. So I'm going to click on Ctrl X. After highlighting only techie, I'm going to click on it, and that's Ctrl X. Ctrl X, X for xylophone. All right. So after that, I'm going to click Ctrl V to paste techie. Look at techie here. I just did Ctrl V. If you follow me in this process, you would get to understand. So then I just have to take back the auto width of this techie by clicking this auto width here, and then I'll move techie rather to align with this text. Now, mind you, learn with Pexels to become a is on a different text box as techie, because now we want to add more text that is going to interact and pass a message to our users out there, right? So now what do we do? Because techie now is on a different, has a different a different text box. So then what we do now is we select Techie at the end of Techie, then we press enter just to move down. And let me take this out so we see what I'm doing. I'll just press enter so I can type in down here product designer. Everything is on all caps. So product designer. And I'll just go ahead to type in software developer. I'll be a little bit slow so that for those persons who are following up can just join. Then we have, I think I mentioned data analyst, right? I think I'm correct with that here, data analyst. So we have this here now. We have Techie, we have product designer, we have software developer, and we have data analyst. Let's give LearnWithPexels to become a kind of different color. Let's use blue. I think blue is also one of the colors of Pexel, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So let's use this shade of blue. Permit me, this blue or this color is not really fine, but for the purpose of learning, let's believe it's fine. All right. So after that, I'm going to come back to where I have this Techie here. We have product designer, software developer, data analyst. What we can do here is we can give this text here yellow. Let's give it yellow. Let's give it this shade of yellow, right? Okay, now so everything has the same color. So let's just, I'm trying to blend the blue and yellow together. All right, so after that, what we need to do is we need to put Techie, product designer, software developer, and data analyst in a frame. In a frame, right? Because right now they're just in a text box, they're not in a frame. So how do you do that? You right click on this text here, and when you right click on it, you're going to have frame selection. If you're using Windows, Control-Alt-G will give you that that, and then when you do that, you're going to see that it is in a frame. And now we are just getting gradually into that. Then what we do now is we're going to make sure that we create a micro interaction, and first of all, make it a component, then before we connect and have a prototype and have that micro interaction. So let me take this out of our hero section. And when I take it out of the hero section, we have frame 1 here. So I've still selecting the frame 1 or selecting where you have all this text in one frame. Go to your right-hand side, just below layout, you're going to see clip content. Clip content, where my mouse is positioned right now. So when you click on clip content, it's really going to help you to in this whole process. So I just selected mine. And now what I'll do now is I'll come to the bottom of my frame, and my cursor is going to have two-edged, is going to be double-edged, and I'll just left click and hold to drag up to hide other text, right? Mind you, you can use what's that called again? Sorry, let me get to. Yes, you can use a mask to achieve this, but this is one of the simplest methods you can as well use to get this done, right? So what we need to do is duplicate this particular frame by just pressing Ctrl D. Make sure before you duplicate, that particular frame is selected, because if it's not selected, whatever is selected on your canvas is going to be duplicated. But make sure that only this frame that we have this text is selected. Very, very important. So mine is selected, and I'll just click on Ctrl D. I have Ctrl D here. Then there are 4 texts, so I'll just duplicate them into 4 places. Then having duplicated that into 4 places, I'll come to frame 2 here, and I'll select the text the text inside the frame. And when I do that, and I make sure it's selected, you can use the arrow keys and just move up, just move it up, make sure it is aligned. And I've just changed from techie to product designer. It's as simple as that. And you can do the same for frame 3 and frame 4. So I'm going to use the arrow keys again, just move it up so that I can ensure that nothing is changing, right? The width are the same, the height is the same. So you just have to eyeball a little bit. And I'll do that for the last, which is data analyst, yes. So after we have that software developer, so I'm going to have that as data analyst. Yeah, so that is the last. So now we have techie, we have product designer, we have software developer, and we have data analyst. So I'm going to click on frame 1, hold shift, click on frame 2, frame 3, and frame 4. You can decide to rename, but I don't want to go into renaming all our frames. So you can go, renaming is very important, but for the purpose of this session, let's just be fast about it because we're running out of time already. So I'll come here now to more actions. Sorry, not there. Yeah, I'll come to more actions on our right-hand side here. There's this icon here. Click on more actions, then create component set, right? So I'm going to click on create component set, and we have a component here, right? So now from here, this is where we start creating the flow. If you have followed me up to this point, this will be very easy to do now. So now I'll come into the component and select techie, then come to the top right here where we have prototype, we have design, and then we have prototype. Click on prototype. And when you click on prototype, it will be able to, you have this that it helps to make you connect from one, it makes it connect from one point to another. So I'll come here where I have this plus sign here, and I'll just click and hold and drag to product design. And we have trigger. If you remember, we talked about trigger, right? So now what we are about to do is called system trigger, not user initiated trigger, right? Because now you want the system to automatically change these words for you without the user influencing it. So if you can remember from the beginning, so we've started using we've started practicalizing what we've learned, right? So this trigger now we have on click. On click is user initiated, but no, we don't want to use on click. We're going to use after delay, right? So when you click on after delay, we have the timing, which is 800 milliseconds. Let's leave it at 800 milliseconds. You might have your animation here. If you can remember, I told us that animation and micro interaction are the same. They just have little differences, right? So we have animation here because we're creating micro interaction. As you can see the heading here, interaction, right? So now you might have yours as an instant, but change yours from your animation from instant to smart animate. Smart animate helps your flow to be fluid, consistent, and natural. So that is why you're selecting smart animate. Now the curve. Now this has to do with the flow, the ease, right? The consistency. So now for me, I'm going to select ease out. Let us use ease in and out back. And then our duration, let's make it 600 milliseconds, and I press enter. So then that is what I'm going to do now. I have created this, I have created what I want to use now for my micro interaction. So it will be very easy. So I'll connect this, move the trigger from on click to after delay, leave it at 800 milliseconds. Everything is still the same here. We have our smart animate, ease in and out back. The same thing for software developer. I'll just be quick about this because I've taken much time to explain. Smart animate is in here, everything is correct. Then from data analyst, we can connect same back to techie so that it comes back to techie. So everything is there. So let me just be sure again that this my last command is correct. So after that, then what you just need to do is go back to design, From prototype, you click design at the top right and copy this, copy techie, just copy techie, come back, pressing Control C, and come to your desktop where you have this and just put in Control. I didn't copy that well. Control C. Yeah, so I just then Control V and had to put that there. So now you have to now move that to somewhere that you can align it better with the text that we have here, so that it's not going to look as if you've detached both contents together, right? Like you've detached them basically. That's what I mean. So let's take this down a bit. Let's take this down a bit, and then let's just have a little image somewhere here. Let's just have a little image here. I think I'll just have to move this back a little bit so we can have our image that we're going to put will be much more a bit visible. So I'm going to use Unsplash. Unsplash is another plugin that you can have royalty-free images for whatever you want to do. So let's just put quickly, let's just put an image there. Then we are going to play for us to see how it looks like. I think Unsplash is taking forever to come up. Okay, it's about to come up. Permit me, yeah. So let's say business. Let's click on business. I don't know why it's taking forever, but permit me, just for us to have a complete feel of the landing page. Okay. So I think that yes, good. All right, so now, let's have a button here. I believe we can also create an interaction with the button. Quick one. Let's say start now. I'm going to create a button with auto layout. I want to believe you all know what auto layout is. Yes, we know. Yeah, so I'll reduce the font size to say 16. Let's say start now. The letter spacing for that is not too good, so let's leave it at 0px and auto layout immediately. And let's put that. Let's have this button here. So I'm going to call this BTN1. Now we are going to create a micro interaction with this button, and it's going to be that when users hover on the button is going to expand a bit, right? The button is going to expand a bit, right? So that's very, very simple to do. So let's just make a quick button. All right. The button might not be fine, but just pardon me. Yeah. So all right. So we're going to increase the font on button 2, and when you click on, just change the font size. I used 16 and 18, right? So when you look at it, it's a little bit bigger. Then I'll just increase the height or the padding, right, a little bit, so that when users hover, it's going to expand and the color is going to be a little bit darker, right? So you're going to have something like this. This button is too big, but it's fine. So then the same process of creating a component, click on actions here at your top right and select create component set. And when you do that, you have a component set. And then you select the first button, go to prototype and click on prototype. Then you come here, drag, click, left click, hold and drag, move it to the button where you want to have that interaction. Then come here where we have the trigger. Now we want to do hover, right? Hover. Now you're going to select while hovering, right? The trigger is now while hovering is a user initiated trigger, right? Because now I have gone there. I want to say I was going to react. So while hovering, because the button won't just stay and just hover on its own, right? So let's use ease out back. Yes, let's select ease out back, and let's leave it at 600 milliseconds, right? So we have our button, and I'm going to copy the first button Sorry about that. So I'm going to paste that. I copied wrongly again. So I'm going to copy the button and make sure this time around it's correct. All right. So we have our button here now. We have learn with Pexels to become a techie, and we have a button down there which says start now. So I'm going to play this for us to see. So it's coming up. 1 minute. Let's wait for Figma. Okay. So as you can see, it's already working. Yeah. So what we have here now is already working. So as you can see, what we did, learn with Pexels to become a techie, product designer, software developer, and data analyst. Now, you can see the transitions, how it's going just on its own because we have created that micro interaction. So the user can be, now you can now determine how many seconds you want each of these texts to stay before it moves to the next. Now, how can you do that? You can do that with the delay functionality. So just play around your delay there, and you're going to see how it looks like. Now the next is button, right? The button we just did. So when I hover on the button, you will see, you can see this little interaction there. You see how it's how the color changes and it becomes bigger. That means you're telling the user that they can click on that button and they should be expecting to start learning with Pexels to become any of these 4 things, right? You can become a product designer, or can become a tech generally, right? Anything, software developer, anything, basically. So this is what micro interaction, this is the feel that we can have with micro interaction. I want to believe at this point, everybody understands. If you don't understand how we got to this point, please just drop your question on the chat box, and I'll quickly just refer back to where you did not get it right. All right. So just like this, we have a quick micro interaction. Yeah, I think somebody dropped something on the chat box. Okay, Justice, you want to say something? All right, go ahead, Justice.
Yeah, okay. Because I didn't want to stop you while you're actually on the process. So along the line, I actually got lost. So that's
okay.
At the spot where you creating a company, I think. Yeah, is that it? Yeah, the company part.
Okay.
So I find it difficult to get to that spot on my own Figma. I've been sourcing out for the particular place you clicked. I know there's a place you clicked that showed you those options, so I couldn't find it here. So I was wondering if there's a setting, because I can't actually find it. Creating that component.
Okay, to create the component. Okay, there's no setting. I want to believe first thing first, because no, it's not Figmotion. We've not gotten to Figmotion yet. We're doing everything here on Figma. Right, we're doing everything here on Figma, not Figmotion. Figmotion, we're going to use that for a little bit of animation, right? Yeah. So to answer you, Vincent, I think we all know Figma changed their interface a bit. So if you have the same interface as mine, please just confirm.
No, I think mine is a bit different from yours, honestly.
Oh,
yeah, but yeah,
okay.
There's this prototype, yeah, but there's this the place you clicked. There's this top part that you clicked that shows those options is not here.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So since you don't have the same interface as mine, if you look at my system or my screen rather, if you look down here, you would see this panel here. When the mouse is hovered. Now, if you look at your system, you're going to have something at the top here.
Yeah. Yes.
You're going to have. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So when you look at that, you're going to see like a diamond shape icon. So when you click that, you're expected to see create component and create component set. If you look where my mouse is hovered now at the right hand side, so select the text. Oh, sorry. Select the frame. And then at the right hand side, you see where my mouse is. so this icon that looks like a diamond shape, you should see it at the top here. You should see it at the top.
Can't actually see that. Okay. Yeah, I've seen
Have you
it.
seen
Yeah,
it?
yeah, I've seen it.
Exactly. Yeah. So
That's-
now, so that is how to. Yeah. So you now just, if you can follow the process that I just did,
Oh.
you're going to get it right.
Thank you
Yes,
so
so-
much. Appreciate it.
Oh, okay. You're welcome. All right. So I think that is okay. Sophia Tlawao, you raised your hand. Is there anything?
All right.
Okay.
Good.
Click.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. Sophia.
Thank you for the practical. And my question is this a free Figma or the paid one? This that you're
This,
using?
this is a free Figma. This is a free Figma. I purposely use the free Figma. If you look at the left-hand side of my screen, you see free just
So,
beside draft.
okay, mine is also free, but my interface has not changed to this. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, yes. For some persons, it hasn't changed yet. It's going to change. I think I just explained to Justice how to get what he wanted. I
Yeah.
think I still have that in my head. Yeah. So possibly yours is going to, your interface is going to change very
Thank
soon. Yeah, Justice. Okay, no problem. Yeah, Justice.
Okay, sorry. Hope you don't mind like taking me walk through from the components down to this place where you are. Is it possible, please? Sorry. I can't really get all the whole thing you said, except maybe if you're getting this video and maybe I'll now go back to the video all over again.
Okay, I'll just use 3 minutes to do that because we have one more aspect, which is animation, because we're already running late into the night.
Okay.
So just permit, yeah, so I'll just take that again. So let's just say we have this. Instead of me typing out again, I'll have to do something to be quick. Don't follow this process. I just want to re-explain. So let me detach this instance. So let's say you have you got to this point, right, where all your texts are in a frame, right?
Yes. This is where I am exactly.
Okay, all right. Now, so you just have to come down here to the bottom, left click, hold and drag up. Make sure every other text is hidden, but you have to ensure that this frame, your clip content that is under your positioning is checked. Clip content has to be checked. Make sure it is checked, right? So, and also then just left click, hold and drag and do the same for all of it. Now, once you do that, select that frame and duplicate it. Duplicate it into 4 because we have 4 texts. If you have 3, any number of text you have, duplicate it according to the number of text you have, right? So now when you do that, then go to the second one because the first text remained the same. Go to the second one and select the text inside the frame, right? Select the text inside the frame. When you do that, press your arrow key either up or down, whichever or wherever that text you want to move to is located. So let's say I want to change this product designer to software developer. What I just did is my arrow key to just move it up and down. So you're going to change it like that as it goes for each of the frame. Select the text and make that change. That's all. So after that, if you've done that successfully, then what you need to do is you now select all the frames and make them a component. Right? So when you can as well write it down as I'm explaining so that you can get the steps as well, if you can catch up so that we can quickly jump into using Figmotion to achieve something.
Okay, then let me just clear. I'm writing them down. So just
All
go
right.
ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, good. All right. So so now after you must have understood how to move your text up and down using arrow keys, then you just select the frame, all the frames. When you select all the frames, then create a component set with them. Create a component set whereby all these frames becomes a variant, right? Then after that, after you must have created something like this, it has to be like this, just like you're seeing on my screen. If it's not like this, then you've gotten it wrong. Then you go back again and start. It has to be like this. So now then you come, yes. So then now you come to Techie, select Techie, go to where we have prototype on your system. It will still be positioned at your right-hand side, at the top right-hand side there. So you click on prototype. When you click on prototype, right? So you're going to, let me use this as an example again. So that's because I've already connected that. So let me create the component sets. I just did. Some of my namings are wrong, so that's why. So, but for the purpose of this, so what I'll do now is select Techie, move in, zoom in a little bit. Go to prototype, and you see this point here. Left click, hold, and drag. When you do that, you're going to have this notification that pops up for you to create your interaction process. Now, the first thing you're going to see is trigger. Now, the trigger is on click. Right now, we don't want it to be user initiated. We want it to be system initiated based trigger. Right. So you click on that, and you have this drop down here. We have after delay. Right. So you're going to select after delay. Right. So leave the delay at 800 milliseconds for now. Then when you come down here, then you're going to select ease in and out back, right? Ease in and out back. You can play around with this curve. You can use linear, ease in, ease out. You can use Gen2 back. But for the purpose of this class, I just selected ease in and out back because this is what I love to use when I'm creating this kind of interaction. It's my personal preference, but others can work as you deem fit if you like it that way. Right, so then the duration is 600 milliseconds. You can decide to make yours 1000 milliseconds. Play along, just have fun with it, and you get to understand it better. So the same thing will be applicable for software. Make sure your trigger is not on click. If not, you're not going to have that system-based trigger. So after delay, the same thing for software developer. I moved it, changed it from on click to after delay. And then data analyst, I'll then hold it back and take it back to Techie, the initial text, right? And move it back to after delay. And everything still remains the same. If you noticed, I did not change the delay. I did not change the duration because I want to maintain that consistency, right? So the the amount of time used in reading Techie, you should maintain that amount of time while reading Product Designer. Not because Techie is a shorter word and Product Designer is a longer word. So that is where you need to understand timing, right? So now you have to put everything together and get a perfect timing that will suit in for your users to read Techie, Product Designer, Software Developer, and Data Analyst. Mind you, we have slow readers, we have fast readers. So you need to have a breakpoint where everybody is being carried along. Very important. That's why timing is that's why I said you need to play along with it. Then after you've done that, you select it and you bring it here where you have learn with pexels to become A, and you have to align it for it to fit into this text box here. And that's all you just need to do. That's the last step. And you select the frame and you just click play at your top right hand side, and then you're going to have something like this. So I want to believe that is captured, right?
Yes. Thank you.
All right, okay. So for the button, I think someone raised an issue about the button. But, yeah. Wura, you raised your hand.
Yes, please. I didn't take a power bank. Wait a second.
Okay.
Hello? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I don't have trigger on my own version of.
You don't have Figma?
No, Trigger on my own version of Figma.
Trigger. Okay, it's still the same thing. I think it's this current modification from Figma that they have actually given those things a name, but you would see what I just did still on your own version of Figma.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah. All right, so I think that is being settled. So permit me, I'll just stop sharing my screen so that I can share my screen to be to cover other my web and as well. So just 1 minute, I'll stop presenting and I'll present again so that I can cover everything. 1 minute. Sorry about that. So I'll share my entire screen now because we're going into using Figmotion, right? So let me know if you can see my screen. Please, can anyone see my screen now again?
Yes, I can see your screen, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. All right. So let's do a little bit of micro animation, right? Still, we're going to design a hero section again, and just apply a little bit of animation, just a little bit. All right, so the same process. Hello, did anyone say something? Okay. All right, so we have our screen here. So let's say let's have another hero text here. Let's say get along with Pexel. Get along with Pexel. Become a tech guru. Yeah. I don't know where I'm getting all this text from, but all this content from, but it's fine. All right, so don't mind me, I can be playful sometimes. All right, so for our sub-hero text, we're going to use Lorem Ipsum. Lorem Ipsum is a dummy text. It's a plugin. Lorem Ipsum, it's a plugin, so you can get it. It just generates fake text for you. So let's generate. Oh no, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Okay, sorry about that. I have to generate it again. So click on Lorem Ipsum, and yeah, we have that. So this text is too big. I'm going to reduce that to, let's do 16. Why is it not changing? Okay, let's do 16. And let's change the font weight to regular. I think we know how to do all this. Let's just make it not too dark, a little bit of gray, and the letter spacing, let's keep it at 0. And let's just do a little bit of resizing. Yeah, let's do a little bit of resizing here. So, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna have a button as well. So I'll just create a button that says subscribe. And I'll just create a button. This time around, we are not creating a component with the button. So let's have a yellow button, and we'll make the text white for readability purposes. Let's make that text a little bit bold. So that because we're going to animate the button just to have some fun. Yeah. I love my button to have a smooth border radius. I don't really like sharp button edges. Okay, so I think we have our text ready. We have get along with Pexels, become a tech guru, and all this here. Yeah. So we're going to have this somewhere aligned, somewhere in the middle. Let me believe that's the middle. Okay. So on the right-hand side here, we're going to have an image here. Still, we're going to use Unsplash to get the image. I think the other time we did business kind of image. Let's go natural. Let's get an image from nature. Let's get an image from nature. Okay, I think I like this one. Oh, that's not free. So for people who don't know, for us who doesn't know how to use Pexel, Unsplash, when you see an image with this plus icon, that means it's not free. It is licensed, but the one that doesn't have this plus icon where my mouse is hovered, yeah, it's free. So let's use this one because this one is free. So I'll click on it. I'll click on it for us to have the image here. Mind you, this frame here has to be selected, right? It has to be selected. Okay. So we have our image here. Let's give it a corner radius, a little bit of corner radius. Let's do 10. Okay. So now what we're going to do is now we're going to animate this image at the right-hand side, right? And we're going to animate this button, right? Just a little bit. We're just going to animate it. It's going to rotate to 90 degrees, 45 degrees and come back to its normal state. Just something to have fun. Yeah. So, okay, so now let's get started. Remember I said you should install Figmotion. So I want to believe for those of us who have installed it, yes, we have. So let's get started. So I'm going to press Control P on my keyboard. That's a shortcut, Control P, for you to access your plugins. And go to plugins and widgets, look for Figmotion. For me, I have Figmotion somewhere here. I'll just click on Figmotion and it's going to open. So it's going to take me outside Figma, right? But I'm going to resize my screen so that we see how it works together. Exactly what I'm just talking about. So it's going to load. Sorry about that. 1 minute, please. All right. So for you, you might have select frame, right? So what you just need to do is you don't close this pop-up. If you close this pop-up, whatever you're going to do on the Figmotion will not be effective on Figma. So don't close this pop-up. Don't close it. Don't close it. Just keep it somewhere else. You can move it somewhere else, but just make sure it is there. So I'm going to select this desktop 2 frame. And you can see I have select a frame to animate. So it is desktop 2 frame you want to animate, desktop 2 frame. So whatever name you've given it, stick with the name and just select the name. So like I said, we want to animate this image, this nature we have here. It's going to have a kind of animation from top to bottom and as if it just enters into the page from top, right? Something like that. So, and I said the button, we're also going to animate the button, right? So how do we do that? Our desktop 2 is selected. Now, what is the name of this image here? Is called rectangle. That's what it's called here, rectangle. So you can rename it if you want to, but let's just go ahead to do it. So now, when you come here, you should be able to see, I said I'm going to resize my screen so that we can see that everything works in together. Yeah. But Figma doesn't resize completely. But however, so we want to animate rectangle 2, which is the image. So I'm going to click on this drop down, this chevron here. So when you click on this chevron, you're going to see under rectangle 2, You're going to see X, Y, width, height, opacity, and a list of many, many things here. Yeah, I don't want to go into details of everything, even though we're not going to leave it. So, but I'm just going to explain the basics. X, Y, width, height, opacity, and border radius, right? Those are the things I'm just going to explain. So X, the value of X deals with the left and right, right? So anything you're animating is going to start from the left and come to the right. If that's what you want to do, you use the X. But if you want to animate something from the top to the bottom, then you're going to use the Y, right? If you remember using keyframes, now this is keyframe. Now this is the framework, right? Using keyframes to animate, because keyframes help you to keep in touch with your timing, the easing, and the duration. So up here we have from 0 milliseconds to 100 milliseconds, and it goes on and on and on and on and on, right? So you can determine how long you want it to be. So now let's get started. Width determines how wide you want your how wide you want to animate the image to look like, and the same thing for the height. Opacity, how blur you want it to be, and from there you can just play along with it with the transition. All right, so let's start with the picture, which is rectangle 2. So I want to animate the picture from up to down, then it takes its normal form, right? We're going to do that. So now I'm going to move this this bar here that shows us the timing. I'm going to hold, left click, hold and drag, and take it to, let's do let's do it again. Okay, yeah. So let's do 900 milliseconds. I'm going to take it to 900 milliseconds somewhere here. It's about 905 milliseconds. So then after taking it to 900 milliseconds thereabouts, I'm going to come to this start. You know, keyframes defines the start and the end. If you can remember, the start and the end of your animation process. So add new Y keyframe, as you can see there. So I'm going to I just double click on this keyframe here, and you should have this blue line that extends on the Y keyframe down to 900 milliseconds here, right? So now this is the start. As you can see, that notification that just came up, this micro interaction. So it says this is the start of reference keyframe. It serves. There's an English that is there, so you can read through. So this is the start. So now I'm going to click on the start, and then here the value that we're going to have the value here at 0, because we want to make the image have make the image look a little bit closed, right? So now when I go to Figma, you would see that our image is here. Now the end is here. So I'm going to leave the end at what we have at the value of 471.5. Now, let me now what we're going to do is let me play to see if what I just did is working. Now you can see, if you can look at my Figma, you would see that the image came from top and it came in. You can see that, right? So let me take this back. Let me take this back again. It will start from 0. As you can see, as I'm moving back, the image is going up because we're animating it. It is not yet smooth. We're going to make everything smooth. Don't worry. It is just rigid now. Now from 0 milliseconds, you can see that it has gone. I'm having network issues now. So once you click on this, so it's going to, you can see what just happened now, right? So yeah, that's it. So we've been able to do that for the Y from top to bottom. Now the height, which we have here, the height, the same thing. You come here, double click on height, so that we have that. We have that blue keyframe that will just automatically come out. Now for the height, let's give it a time frame from the start, right? So at the start, once you click on that diamond like shape, you're going to have something that comes out here at the right hand side. So now the value, or the ease value, is going to change from 683. So let's have the start value to be 1 and press enter. When you click on 1, press enter, then go to your Figma. My Figma is having issues now. I don't know why. Okay, so but click on 1. If you click on, if you enter 1 and you click and you tap enter, look at your image. Your image should be able to, you shouldn't be able to see your image, kind of. That is what you expected to see. Then at the end, let's leave the end at what it is. And let me see if this is going to be effective on my own end. Like I mentioned, my Figma is just, I don't know, has lost network, but there's network on my system. So let's click on that and see. Yeah, I think that is working. So you can see what we are having here now. Unlike what we have before, the animation is gradually taking form. It is not as if it is just dropping down, but it's as if it is unfolding. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can
All
hear
right.
you.
I hear you.
All right.
Yes, we can hear
all right.
you.
So, all right. Okay, good. All right. So then as you can see, since we've made some changes to the height, when you click play, you can see that the animation is taking form, and it's looking something good, but it's very fast, right? Because of the timing we use, 900 milliseconds. Don't forget. So that's why I said play along with it. You can do 1,500, you can do 2,000 milliseconds, and as the case may be. Now it animates and goes back its normal form, right? Then let's do a little bit for the opacity. And we click on opacity, and the same thing happens. Let me expand this. Click on opacity. So what I want to achieve is from a particular point, from the beginning here, where we have the beginning here, the opacity, when I click on that diamond, the start here, that is the starting point. I want to change the value from the start to be 0, and I'll press enter. And the opacity at the end, I want to put it to be 1. So let's leave it at 1. Mind you, you can't make your opacity to be more than 1. It has to be between 0 and 1. You can see I just put into, there's an notification that says your opacity can be no more than 1. So it has to be between 1 and, it has to be between 0 and 1. So let's use 1. And let's see how this will work for us. And I'll just press in play. You can see that opacity fill. You can see, yeah. So that is, so we've just been able to effect this animation play from top to bottom, and the height, it's going to have this skew filling that unfolds from the top to the bottom smoothly. Now, let me point out something. In between, from 0 milliseconds to where we have the 900 milliseconds, you can as well change, have or not really change, add an effect, right? Or probably a timing effect to how it's going to look. Let's say from this seconds to this next seconds, it will be slower and here it will be faster. But for the purpose of this session, we're just having a walkthrough on how to understand these values and how to put it together, right? So that is that for the image. We've gone so fast into it. So the next we're going to look at is the button. Let me see what the button is called. The button is called frame 1. So let me expand this. So we're going to animate the button. Like I said, for the button, we're going to do a Y for the button, a Y keyframe for the button, and the same way we did for the image, a little bit we're going to do that for the button. So the start of the button, let's leave the start at 591, and let's put the end of the button. Let's make the end 0 and press enter. Now let's you can come in. The button has gone very far up. So let's do this again. I think this is too much. Let's make it 385. Let's see. Let's play that and see. No, I'm coming. Let's take out, sorry, I just did a mistake on that. On the right, the button is not supposed to go that up. So let's delete this. Let's delete this. I said for the button, what we expected to do is the button is going to rotate. I said we're going to deal on the rotation part of the button. So let's take this down. Let's take it back to where it was. So now the rotation. Let's start the rotation here is going to be here. Let's put it 45, because rotation deals with a degree, right? So now let's play that. Let's play that and you see. I don't know why it's still going up. It's not supposed to go up. Okay, let me find what the issue is. Okay, my Y is still active. That's why I have to delete that. Yes. Okay, so let's play that again. Yeah. So as you can see here, we just did a kind of 45-degree animation for the button at 45 degrees, right? As you can see here. Yeah. So I think I mentioned that. So so now this is how to deal with animation, creating animation. We can also add let's just do one more for the button. Let's say we add a height keyframe. Let's say this is what it's going to look like. Let's play this to see what the height looks like. And let's say the end. Let's put the start of this button to be 200. Press enter at the start. And let's go at the end. And let's say the end should be, I'm trying to get the number. Let's say 117. And the size of the button just increased. So let's reduce this to, I think it was at 45. The end, let's keep it at 45. So that's too big. So you can just play around it. Instead of 200, let's do 18. And then we're going to have, okay, my connection, I lost connection. So I'm trying to get back connection. I'm trying to get back connection here. So My connection is getting messy, so that's why it's affecting. Like, I'm losing connection, even though you would have seen how this works here. From this start here, let's make it 84. So you can see, just we increased the height and allowed the height to go back to its normal form. Let's play that again. Yeah. So just something like that. Now, this is how you can actually play along using Figmotion to achieve what you want to achieve. And as well, how do you get this now for the developers to see what you have done? Now, this is where you need to render your animation, right? You need to render this. Now, just click on render. When you click on render, you're going to have, you'll be able to render this flow that we just did now, and you can send it to developers to see how your animation that you just did is working fine, and so they can have a better understanding, right? So now you can render this on MP4, GIF, WebM, WebP, and PNG as the case may be. So let's select MP4. Let's keep the frame rate as what it is and click start. And it will take a while for this to actually get together. But for the purpose of time, you can as well do yours, render yours, and save it to your system. Then you can play it as a video for you to see. So I think this will take us to the end of the session, and I want to believe that we have learned one or two things in micro interaction and also animation. And like I earlier said, micro interactions and animation are kind of interwoven, but micro interaction speaks more. Animation speaks more than micro interaction, right? So you can see how seamless animation looks like when you're when we animated the image, and you can increase the size of your button, change the degree from the normal the default state to any degree you want to make it to look like, say, 45 degree, increase the height, and also just play around it, add opacity, you can change the color, you can increase the height using animation and all that. You can make it pop, you can make it rotate 360. So long as you get these basics, every other aspect of you understanding animation will be very, 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 very easy and seamless. So basically, this is how to create animation using Figmotion. And as we earlier did here, let me go back. As we earlier did using creating micro interaction here, we did this, as we see here. Then we also went ahead to create a kind of animation with this image and this button here. We can still do a whole lot just on this landing page, but because of time factor, and some of us here had a long day and we've run out of time, we've actually used more than 1 hour. So I believe we've gotten to learn one or two things, and also for me it has been an exciting session, and I really appreciate our time and everything we've done so far. So now I think it is time for us to have our question and answer session. So if you have any question,